Welcome back to Rosie Revere Engineer. We're on chapter 13. And remember, Rosie had a problem because she couldn't figure out how to pump the paint through the tube. She'd worked out how to make the paint nice and thin, but not too thin that it would run down the canvas. She had worked out how to put the brushes on the end of some gloves on a curtain rod, which you also tried to design. But she doesn't know how to actually pump the paint through the tube. And remember, she had a bit of a meltdown. She was pretty cross with herself and frustrated. Chapter 13. As Rosie turned the corner, a strange droning sound filled the air. Then someone yelled, 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there was music. It was the McAllisters on the bed of a big old army truck right in front of Rosie's house. The droning sound was Hedy on the bagpipes. Remember the bagpipes? Have you ever seen the bagpipes? I'll see if I can put a picture in. Betty played the pump organ and Letty played the accordion. The raucous Riveters danced in the street in front of the truck. They twirled and they swirled and they jumped to the jive, and Rosie's family and neighbours poured out of their houses to join the fun. Here they are. They've always got those headscarves on. I guess it's what they wear to show they're a team, almost like a uniform. Then they said, we can rivet, weld and hammer, and we'll do it just fine, building ships and planes and trucks on an assembly line. We can do it, each and every one, and we'll do our part right from the start until the job is done. Gizmo flew to Rosie, looped and looped, and zoomed back to the organ where Aunt Rose's bird Gadget tweeted along to the music. Oh, here. Remember I said to you an organ is an electric piano, or it uses pipes. Hey, said Aunt Rose when Rosie reached the crowd. We thought you could use a dance party. She tapped her cane along with the music, her walking stick. How's it going? She asked. I'm stuck, said Rosie. Dance it off, said Aunt Rose. Show us some moves. The music was catchy, and before she knew it, Rosie was tapping her foot. Then she was dancing. It was a right raucous time, and for a few minutes, Rosie forgot all about the pump. Ada and Iggy came back with a wagon full of paint cans. They parked the wagon and jumped in to dance. Each of the kids had their own different dance moves, and that's a good thing. Before long, the Riveters were doing the skyscraper with Iggy. Oh, because he's an architect, he's called his dance move the skyscraper. Do you want to see if you can figure out what that dance move might be from an architect called the skyscraper? Have a go. Well done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ada taught the molecule. See if you can think of what dance move will be the molecule, because she's a scientist. Someone in the class might have to tell you what a molecule is. And Rosie had everyone spinning in a dance move she called the gyroscope. Rosie had never heard a trio like the McAllister sisters. She especially loved the bagpipes. Hedy blew into a mouthpiece to fill the leather bag. Then she squeezed the bag with her arm. Each squeeze, interesting, here we go. I think this might be something helpful. Each squeeze pushed air through the music pipe. Her fingers danced over the holes and played a jumpy jazz tune. Letty stretched the accordion to suck it in. Then she squeezed it and pressed the keys to play notes. Betty stepped on the foot pedal of the organ while her hands flew up and down the keyboards. Each instrument pumped air and held it until a note was played. How did that work? Why didn't the air whoosh out of the instruments as soon as the pumping stopped? Something blocked the air from flowing backwards. Have you figured out that this is going to be helpful for Rosie, her machine? These questions swirled like music in Rosie's mind, and she didn't notice that she had stopped dancing. She was thinking, and she was onto an answer. Then, suddenly, Rosie Revere knew exactly what she needed. A valve. For the next hour, the McAllisters played and sang, and Ada and Iggy and the crowd danced to the swinging music. No one even noticed that Rosie was gone. The music drifted to Rosie's backyard, where she worked furiously. She did not notice the faint snipping and clipping noises beyond the hedge, keeping time to the music. Rosie was too busy at the finished Paint-A-Palooza number 3 to notice anything at all. Okay, now I'm going to show you a diagram of how valves work that Rosie's written in her science notebook. We know it's her science notebook because it's got little squares. How valves work, see if you can figure out. Did she do a good job of making a diagram for you? I like the way she just used colour when she needed to. She just used a pencil and then she used red to show you the air moving through. And she did labels for you. That's a good science diagram. It's not supposed to be pretty, it's just supposed to be organised so you can actually understand it. Chapter 14. This is a short chapter. At 9 o'clock the next morning, Ada and Iggy showed up at Rosie's. They loaded the wagon and covered it with a sheet. Then they headed to Blue River Creek Library. A dozen canvases surrounded the parking lot. Rosie found Aunt Rose, Boss, Marion, and the McAllister sisters in the corner. "Rosie!" they cheered. "Ada! Iggy!" Just then, Bernice arrived with a woman in a big floppy hat and, of course, casts on her wrists. That had to be June. "Okay," said Bernice, "we're here." She took off June's hat. "Surprise!" yelled the Riveters. June looked from face to face in shock. What's going on?" "It's Artigo time," said Boss. June was shocked. "But I have casts," she said, raising her arms. "The Riveters wanted to surprise you," Rosie said, "so ta-da!" Ada and Iggy pulled the sheet off the wagon, and June, with her casts on her arms, looked baffled. It's a great word, baffled. "It's Paint-A-Palooza 9, said Rosie proudly. "It took a few tries, but I think we finally did it." June looked even more baffled, but she tried to hide it. "Well, thank you, dear. I've always wanted one." "What is it?" she whispered to Aunt Rose. Boss shook her head. "Oh, you goofball. The kids created an invention so you could paint with your arms instead of your hands." Tears welled up in June's eyes. And one rolled softly down her cheek. "Oh, you Riveters, you are the best. And you three," she said to Rosie and her friends, "I don't even know what to..." And her voice trailed off as she choked back tears. Boss cleared her throat loudly. "Enough of this mushy stuff," she said with a sniffle. "You know I'm allergic to crying. It makes my eyes water." So when other people cry, it makes her cry. June and the Riveters burst into laughter. Then suddenly, squeak! A sharp squeal blasted over the loudspeaker. "Attention," said the librarian. "Are you ready for Art a Go-Go?" "Go! Go! Go!" cheered the crowd. June dried her eyes with her sleeve and smiled. "I am," she said. She smiled at Rosie, Ada, and Iggy. "Thanks to you, I am," she said. The librarian announced the theme for this year's Art a Go-Go. It is home. That means she had to paint something with the theme home. He blew a whistle again, and it was time to go. Do you want to see a picture of the Paint-A-Palooza? I laugh at the bit at the top. Is that Gizmo at the top? Well, okay. That is the end of chapter 14.